Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Michael Miyazaki again, and we're very excited about today's program, especially with today's program. So I'm here. We've got Garrett Caldwell, CEO of the PAC, the Pacific Aesthetic Continuum and Core Dental Lab. And today, our guest that we're very excited to have is Dr. Bill Blatchford. And Dr. Blatchford has Blatchford Solutions, and they've been consulting for 40 plus years. And so really, I think it's a testament to the success of the philosophy. I know Dr. Blatchford was one of the first that I had met almost 40 years ago saying, try to go insurance free when we all thought that was a really crazy idea. And now we all try to strive to get there. And I think, one of the things that we've talked about is, Garrett, you and I talking about how the dental practice today is a dental business and you have to run it like a business. And we've talked during a lot of these episodes about being insurance independent. So welcome, guys. Garrett, Dr. Blatchford.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank
Thanks,
you. Honored to be here.
So yeah,
here.
let's just jump right in. Dr. Blatchford, since we appreciate so if you're watching this and you don't see a Dr. Blatchford, it's because Dr. Blatchford's on a big boat somewhere, and the bandwidth on the video is not working really well. So we're just going to do the audio on his part. We'll put a picture of Brad Pitt or George Clooney, almost the same, to be the placeholder. What's going on with you, and what's going on with the Blatchford Solutions?
Well, first off, I'm really pleased to be here, and actually, I'm on the boat. Garrett and his wife have been on this boat. They met us one time. Actually, I flew them up from, I think, Seattle to a little place called Sullivan Bay, and they spent almost a week with us one time. We've done this for a long time. We've had this boat for 31 years, and we've always spent 3 months on it every summer. And when I was working actively, I was able to do most of it from the boat for 2 months and then a full month of vacation. But I'm real pleased now. My daughter, Christina, went to dental school and practiced dentistry in Portland, took over the business 8 years ago and has done a great job with it. And she calls me her special advisor, I think is what my title is. And so I'm not as active as I was at one time. I do a few of these and a few other things, but for the most part, Christina has taken it and run with it. And I think it is, Mike, what you said, the fact that she has taken it and run with it is a testament to the philosophy that we put together years ago. And I give a lot of people credit for developing that with me. Omar Reed, of course, was one of my early mentors and continued to be a mentor until he passed away a couple of years ago. What's happening, I think, right now is something that a man named Abram King, some of your listeners may know that name. Abram King was an early dental philosopher, I will call him. He was not a dentist. He lectured a little bit. I don't think he was ever a consultant. He may have consulted a few individuals, but he was, Bob Barkley was part of his group of people. But he predicted, this is probably 50 years ago, that dentistry would boil down to 2 tiers. There would be a tier, the lower tier, which we're seeing now in these DSOs. And the upper tier would going to be the dentists that you train that set themselves aside to do something special. And I think the DSO thing, I'm not here to criticize. It's a business for them. That's all it is. And that's what the part that bothers me is it's not about patient care. It's more about the metrics and can we flip this chain of DSOs into a bigger chain of DSOs. And you'll have to, I think that's a boat going by. You might hear it. And so we're here. I mean, we're here. And so, Mike, when you mentioned that I started talking freedom from the dental insurance companies years ago, we're still teaching that. And we're having a lot of success getting doctors who want to deliver excellent care. It's available. It's available to them if they want it. If they want to be, and I think that most dentists go to dental school with a dream, an idea, and sometimes, as Mike, as you know, it takes a little dream to keep you in there in dental school. but most of that dream is an independent practice. I don't think anyone goes to dental school, gets up in the morning dreaming about working for some bean counter who's going to tell them what treatment modalities they can do with their patients, how many of those treatments they have to do in a quarter, all that sort of thing, or being controlled by the insurance company clerks telling them what they can do, what they can't do, how much they can charge for it. I don't think anybody's dream is sustained by those thoughts. I think that most people go into dentistry, and now I think a good thing, we have over 50% of the people going into dentistry are women, and I think a lot of those are choosing dentistry for lifestyle, but they're not getting the lifestyle that they dreamed about when they work for a DSO who dictates their hours, their days of the week, and maybe gets 2 weeks paid vacation a year. I think lifestyle is still very much available to dentists. And Christina just attended the Coyce Symposium. She's a graduate of the Coyce Center, and there were 600 dentists there. And I called Christina this morning in preparation for this and got some ideas from her as well. But I think lifestyle is still very much available if the dentist want that. We changed the old term work-life balance years ago. We changed that to life-work balance and have made that our mantra, that life is first and dentistry is something we do to support that life. And I think that can still be done very well. If the dentist goes after, I think, number one, they've got to have the mindset that that's what they want. They've got to have the mindset that it's available. They have to have the mindset, and part of that's what we call deserve level. Do they deserve to have a life provided by dentistry that's as good as it can be? And I think number two, and this is I think where you folks come in, is they've got to get the training. They have to get the training to do the dentistry that they don't learn in dental school. Dental school is, as I've told people many times, dental school diploma is like a private pilot's license. It's a license to learn. And in a private pilot's license, you better learn real quick or kill yourself. In dentistry, you better learn real quick and continue learning, or you're going to end up doing the kind of dentistry the DSOs want you doing. So I think training is clinical training, and they need to start immediately out of dental school to get that. And thirdly, they've got to really work on their communication skills. My wife just had we decided it was a root fracture on upper first molar. Talk a little dentalese here for your listeners. And she built a 9mm pocket around this palatal root. Well, the dentist that we go to is one of our former clients in Bend, and between consultation with myself, my daughter, our dentist, we decided to remove that tooth, and so we referred us to a periodontist who had all the clinical skills you can imagine. And I laugh about this because it's I could make up stories about this. He walked into the room the first time we met him. He picks up a Perio Explorer without even saying a word, except open. Let's take a look. And I thought, you got to be kidding me. This guy is going to struggle to get patients. I mean, and no phone call. I mean, he did a flap procedure. He removed a tooth. We're going to put an implant in the fall, replace the tooth in sometime a few months later. But without any communication at all, he picks up a perio probe and wants to take a look at the tooth. And I'm thinking, wow. And I'm sitting there watching this thing. But those are the kind of skills that are missing. And it's okay to work in a clinical setting or a large clinic or a DSO or a government clinic without those skills, but to make it, if they're going to make it in that top percentage, of dentists that are in private practice, they're going to have to learn how to communicate with people, with patients as people, not just carriers of teeth. So that's the main thing that I see as the good news, is that it's still available if they want it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good. It's nice that you stress that, because I think some dentists, when they get out, they've got all the debt from school. They think, oh, the private practice isn't going to be attainable because that's even more debt. But I think you're absolutely right. One of the things that Garrett and I talk about is, yeah, you have to have the mindset, you have to have the skill set, as you're mentioning, because the skill set you get from dental school just does get you that license. And I've shared stories where I've been lecturing. I was at a ADA conference, and been lecturing about, I think, just direct composite restorations. And at the noon hour during lunch, a dentist came up and she goes, "We're really mad." And I said, "What are you mad about?" She said, "Because we just spent $500,000 and we don't know everything." And so I
Yeah,
just
yes, right.
definitely, yeah, I just said, did you get your license?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, the dental school did what they were supposed to do, but now you've got to go out there and learn."
That's
So
right.
yeah, I absolutely agree.
Well,
So
that's right.
yeah,
Go ahead.
no, I just wanted to, so with that, for the dentists that are maybe they've just gotten out, maybe they're headed towards the DSO, or maybe they're an associate, but they have the dream of having that private practice that took them to dental school, because I did have that. Um, how do they get out of that? How do you help them,
Well,
the mindset and the confidence?
yeah. Here's what they have to do. Number one, they've got to sit down and do the math. At the salary they're going to make working in a DSO, they're going to be doing well to pay the interest on that loan. They've got to get out and either get the job as an associate in a private practice where they can make a decent income. I mean, I see associates out there now that are making 250, 350 a year after after just a couple of years of practice. But these are the people, men and women, who have gone out and developed some skills, some clinical skills, whether it be cosmetics, whether it be implant placement, whether it be just solid restorative skills. They have gone out, and I don't want to say take the risk, because it's practically no risk at all. It's not like Garrett does with real estate. There's risk there. This is virtually guaranteed. If you've got your license, and that's what the school is supposed to do. The fact that they spent $400,000 to $500,000 is a whole other subject that we don't need to go into. First off, I will say this: our daughter went to OHSU in Portland. She was married. Her husband was working, and she came out of school with less than $200,000 of debt. And that's when kids were coming out with $400,000. So part of that, if we could get to these freshman dental students and have them quit living like they're already graduated from dental school in luxury apartments and driving nice cars and going to Cabo on vacation, all on borrowed money, they don't need to go $400,000 in debt, is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. But since they are $400,000 in debt, their only way out of that is to work for a private practice where they're paid on their own production, but they've got to learn the clinical skills more than what they learned in dental school, and they've got to learn it quickly. Concentrated courses like yours, like others, where they actually get some experience with patients, are wonderful, and they can learn quickly. The second thing they've got to do is develop the communication skills so that patients will see the value in the treatment they have available. We can call it sales if we want. I do. And I look at dentistry, and I've looked at dentistry for years, including when I was practicing. It's a luxury item for people. Now, this may offend a few dentists listening. No one needs what we do. I have a friend right now whose wife is going through probably the final stages of cancer treatment. Glioblastoma, metastatic melanoma, all in her brain. It's just terrible what's going on. Those treatments are necessary. There's nothing we do in dentistry beyond the relief of acute pain, an acute infection, that's necessary. I mean, it's something that people can choose to do, choose not to do, and they live long, useful lives. And when I was lecturing, I used to use my grandparents as example. All of them were edentulous early in their life, like we're talking before they're 20 years old. And they lived long, useful lives, outlived their life expectancies, put their kids through college during the Depression. They did all this stuff, great lives without teeth. How can that be? Well, we have to learn, and we can say, people can blame it on the ADA or the profession needs to do a better job of promoting what we do, but individual dentists simply need to learn to find out what people want and provide it for them. And if they can do that, the patients will be there, and they can make so much more money doing treatment for people that people want, instead of trying to educate people into submission, is what's the term that I used for years. And these are the skills that I know you guys talk about them. Your different instructors you have at your program talk about these skills. This is what Christina and our consultants teach these doctors and teach the staff. The staff is just the same. And I because what I've done for the last 40 years, I laugh sometimes. And as I get older, I've been to several medical specialists, and I'm very fortunate. And I wake up every morning and count my blessings at 82. I'm still able to do pretty much what I have. I have no major issues at all. And yet I go to several different physicians because for screening exams, etc. But I go to these physicians' offices, and it's like this periodontist office, same thing. There's team members, and I hate to even call them team members. They're truly staff members. Mm-hmm. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue how to relate to patients. And it's simple stuff. It's standing, and we Carolyn and I go to a concierge physician because we don't like the typical system that we got through our Medicare and insurance coverage. You go into these offices where you go in, like my dermatology office, because I spend so much time in the sun, I go every 3 months. I had a wonderful dermatologist, but I'd go in there, and every single time the front desk would just, without even looking up, without making eye contact, never taking her eyes off her computer. Name and birthday, please. Next is your ID and your insurance card. And I finally asked my dermatologist, a young lady who I just loved her. She was really wonderful. I said, is part of your training with your new staff members to avoid eye contact at all costs? And she just laughed and said, I know. Now, that dermatology office is owned by a chain out of Texas, and we're in Oregon. And she said, I really have no control over who I have working out there. Oh, it's too bad. But I go to these offices, and I go to the concierge office, and who we pay a monthly fee to belong, on an annual basis, and they know that we're making a choice. His team members stand up, greet you by name when you walk in. I mean, simple stuff. Calling patients in the evening, simple stuff. But doctors aren't doing that. Their team members aren't doing that. And they wonder why the public views dentistry as a commodity. And therefore, if it's a commodity, I should choose the least expensive one that I can find. And that's too bad. It doesn't have to be that way. Just last week, I ran into a couple, not quite as old as me, but getting up there. And the wife had a beautiful smile, and I complimented. I took some lines for them as they brought their boat in, and they're on a big boat, a 55-foot boat out of Seattle. And I took their lines at the dock, and I complimented her, and I said, "You have a beautiful smile." She said, "Well, I just spent as much as a new Porsche." and the husband, who's sitting there, and he says, "Well, I'm just getting ready to put a Ferrari in my mouth." And I said, "Well, after she told me that, I said, well, I'm a retired dentist. I really appreciate that. And yes, you got a great result, and it looks good on you." And when he said he was going to put a Ferrari in his mouth, I said, "Well, you might want to try and do it twice because it'll take 10 years off your face. If you do it twice, it'll be 20 years, and you look as nice as your wife. And so they were teasing me about it. They said, well, you're good at what you do. But I said, but the truth is, here's a couple. Is, they're spending, $60,000-$70,000, and his teeth, he's probably, I don't know what their ages are. I'll say 70 years old. They've got the money. They're spending the money. They're going to a dentist in Seattle that I know of. He's not a client of ours, but he does a lot of high-end cases, high-end dentistry, and he charges legitimate fees. He's not insurance dependent at all, and it's out there for people. Now, if they choose that end, they can pay off this $400,000 of debt, and that $400,000 or $500,000 of debt. Now, they can't amortize it financially over the rest of their career, but if mentally they start thinking, okay, I paid $500,000 to get into this profession. I'm going to practice for 40 years. Gee, that's really not that much. But they can't do it working in these clinics where the turnover is immense and they're doing, basic dentistry that insurance companies will pay for and doing it for insurance fees. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So learn the skills, get out there, take the courses, go to the clinical courses, hire consultants, learn how to communicate with patients, teach your staff how to communicate with patients, and be that top tier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bill, we just finished up a program a few months back, and at the end of the program, Mike asked the group, actually at the beginning of the program, Mike asked the group, what are your concerns? What are you doing here? And it's always tough because we talk about communication. One of the reasons Mike asked that question is to be able to get people comfortable talking in a group environment with a group of new doctors.
Yes.
And it was interesting because, 20 years ago or 30 years ago, when we all started teaching indirect all ceramic and dental bonding and veneers and all this, the fears in the room were very different. I'm here to learn. I'm here to create a new revenue stream. Those doctors were paying $5,000 to $8,000 per program to be at the program. In this case, Dr. Miyazaki, Mike asked everybody, give me your name and tell me why you're here and tell me what you want to get out of this program. And ironically, the majority of the attendees brought up the fear of being able to repay their dental school loan. I'm surprised about that because I'm sitting in the back of the room thinking, I'm thinking at the beginning, I'm thinking if we can teach you these skills, you have discretionary opportunities with patients, you can earn more money, all of the above. I'm going too fast, Bill, I'm thinking about the end. But it was interesting because for the first time, I heard completely different fears in the room than we heard in the past, which reflect exactly what we're talking about. Likewise, we've transitioned from charging $8,000 to $10,000 for a program where we used to ask doctors, hey, how would everybody in the room who's teaching for the program like to have all the money back that they spent on education to get here? And everybody raised their hand. I spent $100,000. I spent $150,000. I mean, you had to spend money 20, 30 years ago. You had to spend a significant amount of money on your postgraduate education to be able to compete. Now we offer a scholarship provided by the laboratory
that's been unique.
Yeah, and as a laboratory, we want to help our clients to be able to grow, because if they grow and we provide this quality of education, we know that down the road, the laboratory will benefit because they'll be getting more cases from that doctor. So we're happy to invest, and I try to teach the doctors about using resource management. If money's tight right now, you need to reach out to the people around you and expect those vendors around you to help you. They're always got their hand out, sell you something, but who in your world is helping you? And ironically, their fears are the same that you're talking about how to pay, but they're also want to have their time off to go skiing up in Utah. And they also drive a nice.
Well, see, that's part. that's part of what they have to learn too. And that's where Christina, I think, is doing a great job of helping these doctors. I was on Facebook this morning watching one of her doctors do a testimonial on how she works, how vacations have really helped her balance her life. And she does. She works 3 days a week, and she takes 9 weeks vacation off at this point. And she does. She has all those debts. She bought a practice. She's got debt from school, debt from her practice, and yet she's able to schedule effectively and get the work done. And you guys have always done a unique thing with your scholarship. I just have admired that for a long time, and it can be a short-term gain for the lab, but it's going to be definitely a long-term gain for the lab. And you've been doing it for 20, 30 years, so it's obviously working. But they've got to put this in perspective, and I think that's a big problem too. My brothers are farmers. Actually, one of my brothers died 5 years ago, but they're farmers. And I was up recently on the farm, and one tractor's $500,000 today. And he took me out to a field where they were planting potatoes, and he said, "You see that coming across the field there? That's a 12-row planter. That's $250,000 being pulled by a $500,000 tractor, and there are 3 of them in the field at once." And doctors get all upset about, so they're $500,000 in debt. They've got to put that in perspective to what their earning capacity is, and it's not a problem. It's really not a problem. We helped he's kind of a, I guess, what would I call him? He'd be like a second nephew of my wife. He was at a Thanksgiving dinner one time, and he was going to Oregon State, and I asked him what he's going to do with his degree in biology, and he really didn't know. "Maybe I'll teach." And I said, "Why don't you go to dental school?" Well, he did. He went to dental school, and he put the whole thing through. Now, one thing that I did, he and his wife moved into a really nice apartment near the dental school, and I said, "Now, wait a minute. You're not a dentist yet. You can't live in that luxury apartment. It's a luxury, not really luxury, but an expensive high-rise on the river in Portland." And I said, "You can't do that at this point." Well, he moved out. They moved into the basement. This is not ideal way, but they moved into his wife's parents' basement, had a separate entrance, like a separate apartment, and they lived there for the next 3 years. They spent the first year in that nice apartment. And he came out with half the debt that most of his classmates came out with. We helped him buy a practice just west of Portland. And last year, he raised the income of that practice from what it had been netting somewhere around $300,000. He raised the net of that practice last year by $300,000. It's up almost $600,000 in net income. And if dentists understood the potential, and by the way, he's done a ton of CE. Mm-hmm. If dentists understood the potential of private practice, I mean, these young dentists, and they went out and did the things we're talking about, the clinical skills, the communication skills, the management skills to run that practice, they wouldn't panic about their school debt or what they have to spend on CE to get there. It's just part of the investment.
Yeah, it's really relevant. And I know that, so Mike and I talk a lot about the business of dentistry, looking at your numbers and understanding your numbers. And Mike talks a lot about productivity and bottom line net income versus being busy.
Exactly. When I first started to practice in Corvallis, Oregon, there was a man named Charlie Stewart who took me under his wing, and he was very smart, and he would tell me. So we didn't practice together. He let me come into he said, "Well, you can come in. I can't give you any patients. I'm just getting started myself." He had just moved to Corvallis from another practice, another town, and but you can practice there on Friday or Saturday if you want. I work 4 days a week, and you could use my office because there's a shortage of space. And so I did for a few months. But as I got going, I'd be busy, and he'd say, "Don't tell me how busy I am. Tell me what you got done today." And we talked a lot about profitability and how to make this work, how to deliver excellent care, and make it rewarding for the dentist. And part of it was, and this has always been a big part of our consulting business, is have highly trained people, but don't have so many of them. And we've always been able, and we still can do this. This is what amazes me. I kept staff members at 20%. 20% of my gross went to the team for all the benefits. I was able to pay people really well, give them all the paid vacation. I remember the first time I did it was a month-long vacation, and Carolyn and I, and Christina was 18 months old. We loaded up my Chevy Blazer, got on the ferry in Seattle, and went to Alaska. We spent 5 weeks fishing, camping, etc. Came back, and now the team got paid straight through. And people said, "How could you do that?" I said, "Well, I figured out how much I was going to pay them for the year, and I just divided it by 12, and that's how much I paid them each month." And anyway, it worked out fine, and we still teach the same thing, but it's based on 20%. And even in today's environment, we can still operate practices at 20%. Well, there's the average is over 30. That's in some states we're seeing 30, and where you are, Mike, we're seeing 35% is not unusual. There's 15%. Let's say you're doing $1 million. That's $150,000 that ought to be in your bank account instead of paying out to extra staff members. And so what we do, this is what dentists do, and I may offend some people. We hire incompetent people, and we hire them a helper. Now we're paying 2 salaries, and pretty soon it's 3, for what a job that one person, well-trained, with good systems, could handle by herself.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying this interview with Dr. Blatchford. And if you are, please check out Blatchford Solutions. And, you know, he's talking about the education that the PAC offers. So if you're interested in that education, just go to thepac.org and check out the website and get some information. All right, let's go join Dr. Blatchford once again.
And the other thing, and I've got a client that's been a client for, 20 years, and he goes elk hunting with me every year, and he's very highly productive. And he says, if I can do a $15,000 day, why would I do 3 5s? And I think that's a question every doctor needs to ask themselves. If I can do a $10,000 day or a $15,000 day, why would I do 3 days to do the same amount of production? So that's what you're talking about, Mike, being productive or being busy. Mm-hmm. Sure, you can be busy, but how do you put that together and be productive? This is some simple things. We've taught block booking for years, and that's something that another consultant and I developed in my office, that every day was the same. We did the same procedure at the same time every day. And in my particular office, it was 4 units of crown and bridge for an 8 o'clock appointment. Now, remember, that was a long time ago, and we were doing things that people don't even do anymore as far as lab work and that sort of thing goes. But if you had 4 units or more of crown and bridge, you could have an 8 o'clock appointment. So I didn't need to have 4 rooms set up for various things. I needed 1 set up. And we knew exactly what it was going to be because we did the same thing at the same time every day. And I learned that from an orthopedic surgeon when I was developing the concept, because I got interested in hip implants because my father-in-law had one that failed, and I had some ideas to cool the hip implants with. You remember the old hydrocolloid impression material? I said, why don't we, because they used to use orthopedic cement, which is called methyl methacrylate, to hold the thing in place inside the femur. And I said, why don't we cool the implant with water like we do this impression material? And so he invited me to come watch a couple of them, and I did. And he said, we do them Thursday morning, 7 o'clock. And my receptionist at the time said, well, what if your patient can't come at 7 o'clock Thursday morning? And his response was, we'll do it on somebody else. And the bells were just ringing in my head. And I said, well, wait a minute. Why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we decide what we do to start each day? And we teach that. Christina's done a great job of teaching this. And her approach is a little different than mine. But she says, how about we just do 1 day next week? Just plan 1 day next week. Plan a perfect day. Just plan it. And then once you do 1 day, well, maybe we make it 2 days, and we eventually get to where we are following block booking. But see, some simple things like that can make somebody highly productive, and you don't need all these extra people. And if they'll simplify everything they do in the administrative end, I'm on several dental forums, and I read these questions that people ask, and I think, gosh, I can solve that for them. So no problem at all. But I've decided people on dental forums really don't want a solution. They just want to talk about problems. For the most part, our clients, we don't send statements. We quit doing that years and years ago, probably 30 years ago. Our clients quit sending statements. It's real simple. You're there, the patient's there. Everybody knows they owe you some money. Why don't you ask for it? And collect it today, as opposed to sending them home and then sending statements to them, or sending to the insurance company and see what the insurance will pay, and then trying to get the balance out of the patient. We just collect money. And simple things like this can make all the difference for somebody's bottom line. And this is how they pay off that debt.
Yeah, can I ask a question? Because everything, I think we are all on the same page. And, knowing you for so long, you've definitely had a large influence on the way we run our practice too. In today's economy, if you were going to go insurance independent, I tell doctors a lot of times the insurance company is their marketing company. It's supplying them with patients.
That's right.
So if one of the things I tell the doctors that are thinking about separating from insurance is, well, before you separate from insurance, do everything that you just mentioned, and make sure you have the skills, make sure you have the organization and everything behind you. But you have to figure out how to get butts in your chairs too. So from a marketing perspective, how have you adapted, or how has Blatchford Solutions adapted to that? Because I think that's one of the biggest changes, especially in the last 10 years with social media and everything like that. Do you have any thoughts on that?
First off, you've got to get the other things in line first.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have, you have to have the skills. You have to have, I'm going to go through those 3 steps. You need the mindset first. You need the mindset. You've got to change your way of thinking. You've got to change how you think about this. A couple of years ago, John Coyce invited me to speak at his symposium, and I did a presentation on that I learned from a fellow named Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach, and the subject is thinking about your thinking. Sounds redundant, but actually it's a very important step. Is you've got to think positively. You've got to think that, and I used to tell doctors all the time, I said, people come to any business. They want a service that your business offers, or they wouldn't be there. They know that you're going to charge them a fee for that service, and they expect to pay you. That's number one. I mean, they expect to pay you. I'm always a little dumbfounded when I go to a medical offices, and my wife and I travel a lot, and we're only home in Bend 4 months a year. And I say, look, I travel all the time. I want to make sure you get paid. And there's a good chance by the time you get a statement to me, I will be out of town. It won't get paid for 3 months. And I just want to pay you. Oh, no, we can't do that. I just laugh. I mean, you can't take my money. and yet, see, that's mindset. People don't want to pay. So number one is the mindset. 2, again, I'm going to say, they have to get the training in the clinical skills to offer a service, offer a treatment that's not being offered by the insurance companies. For what you teach cosmetically, that's strictly out of insurance. I don't think there's an insurance company yet that will pay for 10 anterior veneers done for aesthetic reasons. So that's all non-insurance. And if they develop those skills, and then they learn how to communicate this, again, I'm going to say it, the sales of those 10 veneers or whatever it is, whatever the insurance companies won't pay, they've got to learn how to present the value of that. And you do that by finding out what the patient wants. It's just like the other day on that couple on the boat. What the husband wants, he wants to look as good as his wife. She looks a good 10 years younger than he does. And we were laughing about that. And that's what he wants. He doesn't want the veneers. He doesn't want his mouth redone. He wants to look as young as his wife. And if they can learn how, right, and this is what we teach, is how to get that from the patient, how to get the patient talking about what they really want. I've said for years, no one wants, an easy one, no one wants a root canal. no one wants an implant. What they want is they want health, they want beauty, they want, those are the things that they want. And you've got to get the patient to verbalize that by asking the right questions. And they've got to develop those skills really well before they change that relationship with the insurance company. They also need to have their team learn how to communicate with patients. We call out of network, we call us unlimited, unrestricted providers. An unrestricted provider is a nice way to refer to an insurance out-of-network dentist, as opposed to, oh, we don't take your insurance. Oh, yeah, we'll take your insurance. However, we are an unrestricted provider, which means that we're not bound by the insurance company's restrictions of what treatment we can offer you. Oh, why is that? Well, our doctor has taken so much CE that they know that he does excellent treatment, and we just don't have any restrictions on us. Oh, see, just how you say it makes a huge difference, and they've got to learn to do that first before they change that relationship. But once they change that relationship, I'll tell you, we've never had anybody go back. We've never had a client go back to accepting insurance. I take that back. I did have a client go back. He had a practice out in, I'm trying to think of the place, it was out in the desert in California, out there someplace. And he developed a really, really good out-of-network practice, and he ended up moving to Park City, Utah. Before he sold the practice out in the desert out there, the broker said, "You've got to go back on insurance. I can't sell an out-of-network practice." So he did, and he said, "I couldn't believe it." And he went to Park City, Utah, and practiced there until he retired. And he never even started with insurance in Park City. But he had the skills. He had the skills. He had the communication skills. He had the small team. They were well trained, and that was in place first. Then he went out of network, and then he did go back into network because the broker said, "I can't sell it out of network practice," which I thought, I said, find a new broker, but that didn't work. So he did go back. But bottom line, other than that, I can't think of a single client that's ever gone back to being in network and having the insurance company dictate the treatment to the patient.
Yeah. Yeah. Once he moved back to Park City, he had a great view and he had a great life. So yeah, no, he did really well.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah. He'd see patients in the morning, go skiing in the afternoon. So yeah, he did well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Actually, he didn't. He actually went skiing in the morning and skied into the dentistry in the afternoon.
Okay.
He would have a powder day, and he would call the patient the night before and say, "You've got a dental appointment tomorrow morning, but you've got a problem. We got a fresh dump of powder, and your dentist is going to be skiing. Now, you can either see me on the chairlift at 8:00, or you can see me another day."
Bill, I never met a doctor in any of the programs that we did over the last 30 years that didn't comprehend everything you're saying. However, for some reason, they had the fear of taking that leap. And I'll never forget what Bill Blatchford would say. He'd say, "I'll make it easy for you. Let's look at your last 12 months. I'll give you this $55,000 consulting for the next 18 months, but I get 50% of the extra revenue, so you have no risk."
Garrett, I remember making that offer to many people. Nobody ever took me up on it because they'd be sitting there. They'd ask one of my clients,
Yet so many.
Should I do that? And they all said, "No." But this is the thing, and I think again it goes back to the mindset and the deserve level that they have to work on. The dream of a private practice is still alive and well today if the doctor will do the thing. No, I'm not going to be naive enough and say, "Oh, it's no different than ever." It is. It's more difficult. It's probably more difficult than it's been, but it's still possible. It's still possible, and people are doing it. And Omar Reed, one of his favorite quotes was, "If it's been done, it's probably possible." And I'd kind of like to leave you with that thought. If it's been done, it's probably possible. You can if it's been done by someone else, it's possible that I could do it. I was amazed when we were just talking about, my wife and I were talking about this just the other day. My goal was to get into dental school, and I was amazed when I got there. They were all smart. Everybody there was a very smart, good, excellent students. And I feel that that's true with all dentists. They're all very smart people. And they're real capable people. And if one dentist has done it, it's probably possible that others could do it. I'm not going to say everybody could do it because it's not true. Others can do it.
And I think
but you have to have the desire to do it. And I'm not going to say it's not. It's probably more difficult. I will say it's probably more difficult today. I think it depends where you are. Where you practice. I also say that's a choice too, though. Don't choose a real competitive area. I picked out certain areas in the United States that I wouldn't take a client because I would say, no, you probably can't do it there. That was probably my fault and probably a downfall that I would do, but there are some areas in the United States that I would not choose to go practice there. Why would I? More difficult. So it does depend somewhat where you are, but I'd say most areas, gosh, we've got, and it's not just little country towns. I'll tell you, we've got some really incredible practices in some very sophisticated urban areas doing the same thing out of insurance. I don't think anything that's really worthwhile is easy. It does take some work.
Bill, I was going to say, and what's amazing is that all of the support, I mean, even for our listeners here on the podcast today, there's at least 3 people here that are always willing to help, that are always willing to return an email, always willing to guide. Bill Blatchford will even do it for free if you give him half the revenue for the next 10 years. So,
Garrett, I do it for free anyway. I answer emails, I answer phone calls. I'm always available to help people, and so is Christina. Christina does it for money. I'm retired now, and I don't do it for money. But even so, I will always answer emails, or I answer short. My email answers, I'll prepare you if you're going to send me an email. It's going to be short. I'll say, please give me a call. I'd rather talk to you than send you an email. But I'm happy to do that for anybody, and because I think we've got a great profession. It did well for me. And I just like giving back, and I'm happy to do. I'll do that for anybody. And sometimes all it takes is a quick answer. But I think that I really think if someone wants to go out of insurance, I would say the first thing I would do is I'd find a consultant like Christina, who's helped so many people do it already. I mean, she knows the pattern, she knows the formula. But you do have to get those 3 things in place first. And I think I think dentists are wise to hire a coach that will work with them and hold their hand while they're going through the tough parts of the transition. And there are some really good consultants out there to do that. Some work with somebody like Christina, and there's some like to work with consultants that actually come into your office on a regular basis. And I think there's room for both, and I think there's some really good people out there, but don't do it alone. Don't do it alone.
No, that's a great message. And our message here has been, Mike is always available. I think one of the things that Blatchford Solutions has always been known for is a systematic approach to every problem, not just a lot of talk and not like, you've always systemized everything. You've always had an answer and a process. And I think that process that we teach, that Mike teaches on the clinical side, the process that you teach on the business side, it's there. And I think one thing I learned today from listening to you is you really have to start with the mindset. Like Sammy would always say, Garrett, I know Bill's right. I'm a fool, to the day Sam gave the keys to the new buyer, he still knew everything he didn't do that he should have done. He'll probably listen to this and say, he lecture me on what he should do, but he won't do it. So
yeah.
You know,
Well, I think that's
different mindset.
I think that's in human nature. I think we all know. You know, we all know that about exercise. We know that about diet. We know that about our health. We know that about,
Yeah.
you know, I think every dentist knows how we know how to stay healthy, but we don't. I think we all know. I mean, Warren Buffett has let us know how to become wealthy, but we don't do it. You know, we knew early on that if we just put a certain percentage of money away starting early, we'll end up with a pot full of money, more than we will spend in our lifetime. We'll learn how to, but most don't do it. I think I'm real pleased when I run into dentists who have done these things, you know, to stay healthy, to financially stable, you know, all of the things that make life successful. I think intellectually knowing how to do something and having the courage and the motivation to do it is the tough part. And I think it's just like athletics. I think coaches are what provide that for athletes, and I think that's what we provide for dentists.
I think that one of the things that a lot of the associates that I personally see, because, you know, we at the laboratory, I'm not in the laboratory as much as I am on the telephone, talking with the doctors and listening to what's going on in their lives and just trying to be a social life coach in a lot of situations. And one thing I try to think that the young associates can do is, you know, one of the things you always talk about is if you're going to hang out with people, always be the dumbest guy in the room. Because then
Exactly.
you're hanging around successfully. So if I'm gonna be an associate, I want to be an associate for Dr. Miyazaki, right? I want to be somewhere where if I fail
You
dramatically
bet.
working with him, I'm probably going to be in the top 90% or top 10%, excuse me, of dentists. So, and I think that's something that is a simple choice, which is if you're going to associate, do it in a place that's successful and surround yourself by successful leadership so that you can at least learn.
Well, I think, you know, I think many smart people have said that you are the composite of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and I think that's true, and that's where I look at. I've kind of, well, I have quit responding on so many of these dental forums because what they do, they seem to love to talk about their problems, and they're not really interested in the solutions. And kind of get on these forums and commiserate with their colleagues, and I just don't see any value in that at all. It's if you want to be successful, find yourself 4 or 5 really successful people and do what they do, and it's real simple. It can be as successful as you want your marriage to be. Hang out with people who have successful marriages. If you want to find out how people become successful in health, well, surround yourself. You know, you mentioned a health club, Mike. I mean, that's a great place to start right there. If you want to hang out with healthy people, go to a gym. I mean, that's where we go. That's where we do. And you want to be successful financially, hang out with people who are successfully financially. And that doesn't mean the one with the fanciest car and the biggest house on the block. That means I'm talking real wealth. I'm not just talking flash here. Many of those don't have any money. I've got a kick out of, you know, Warren Buffett and his wife still live in the original house they have had for 50 years. And that's why he's so wealthy. You know, and I've had that a funny story in dental school. I was in school in Chicago, and Carolyn was teaching. She had a master's and had a really good job, and I had a part-time job at Cook County Hospital. I was making more than she was making teaching, and we drove. We had a new, well, it was a year old XKE Jaguar Roadster in dental school. We went to Europe between our 3rd and 4th year of dental school. But you know what my reputation among my classmates was? You'll laugh. Bill and Carolyn are frugal. And that's why I could drive a new Jaguar, which we paid cash for. But I took my own lunch to school every day. My friends all went out to restaurants at lunch, and took a sack lunch every day and ate in the laboratory. So my reputation was I'm frugal. Well, I kind of like that. I kind of like that. I kind of like, and Garrett, you're into boats, and Kel and I, we've had the same boat for 31 years. So have you. And people I talked to a guy, he's on his fourth boat, and they're bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, a boat's a hole in the water to pour money into, which we have done.
Sure.
But at the same time, it's not the biggest, flashiest boat. It's, we don't live in the biggest, fanciest house. We've done well, I guess is how I'll say it. And part of that is being somewhat frugal. And I think that's a message I'd like to get across those young dentists as well, is the status symbols don't last long.
Hey, Garrett, I know we're coming up. I don't want to take Dr. Blatchford this entire day. I want you to enjoy some time out in the boat. But, one of the things that I think there was a lot of great advice, especially for the younger docs, and the whole thing about think about what you're thinking. I think that's, so true. As Garrett pointed out, you've been saying we should become a non-restricted provider, kind of insurance independent for decades now, and yet it's one of the hardest things I think our colleagues do. So I think these words are words of encouragement. And I think at this point in your career too, the advice that you give is just sage advice. Omar Reed, before he passed, I went out to go visit him right before his passing, because he was a dentist clinician friend that I so respected. I wanted to go out there and just see how he was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But the words that you shared from Omer, I think they're going to live on forever. But I think this is just great advice. Everything that you've done basically the same way philosophically for the last 40 years. Maybe had to adapt with the changing environment of dentistry. But I always tell people it's the principles that will survive over time. And so a lot of the things that
Yep.
you taught, it's the communication skills. And that's why there's that book. The C students usually do better than the A students, because the A students are book smart, but they're not the communicators like the C students. So once you get out of dental school, it's really those
Yep.
that communicate the best that I believe do the best. And no, I just want to thank you, because I think if the doctors go back and they listen to this, not just once, twice, and maybe three times, over those three listenings, they will start to pick up the pearls. And there's a long string of pearls
I hope so.
in this hour that they can put together, string together, and they're going to have a nice little pearl necklace. And I think has been invaluable. So I just want to say thank you very much for your time, and for
Thank you. I appreciate it.
while you're out there enjoying your family. So Garrett, any closing?
Yeah, Bill, you know what? I feel like every time we talk, you're the same age, you're youthful, you're like your sage advice, and you're just a great guy, and you've always been a giver. And I'm so glad to hear that your daughter's taking it over. And Blatchford Solutions, I think offers it's my style, which is a systematic approach, comprehensive and simple to follow format. And I really encourage our listeners to look into that to Blatchford Solutions if they need some help in the future. And Bill, so nice to hear from you, man.
Yeah.
It's been a long time, and I was
All right. Thanks so
thinking
much.
about a great guest. And I really want to share, what's helped me in my life has been the people I've hung around with. And obviously that's you. You've been a motivator and a real light in my life. So I wanted to thank you for that too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's a wrap. And yeah, thank you, Dr. Blatchford, and thank you, Garrett. I hope you all enjoyed that interview. As I mentioned, Dr. Blatchford gave some very sage advice, and it was built on principles that he's applied for over 40 years. And I will tell you, a lot of that is what I follow too, and it does work. It may sound scary, but just got to have the faith. Well, I hope you enjoyed this recording, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you very much.